So I'll see you in her cockpit now. Yeah, I think she's fixed. I've got Maude jacked up, cross-threaded. Oh no. Shaky steering, and you know, the suspension just feels weird. I can feel that knocking. It's the wrong side spanner. So I'm not going to get involved in that. And then whack the end of the club hammer with another club hammer. Yeah, I'm not sure. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and today I'm heading over to my other garage to hopefully do some bits on this moredoor Mk2 Escort that I like to call Maude, and also Esther, my ST170 powered Mk1 Escort. Now you'll remember in the video before last, I think I solved the issues I was having with Esther not running properly, but I haven't test drove her yet. So I'm not going to find out until I try and drive her. So I'll see you in her cockpit now. Yeah, I think she's fixed. Alright, so as you just saw, Esther is now running sweet. So the issues that you saw in the video before last literally was just that coolant sensor not being plugged in properly. Now I did go for an extended joyride off camera, and yeah, then eventually I did make it round here. But I've actually been round here for a couple of hours now, fiddling with a couple of bits. I've got Maude jacked up and on axle stands, and I've been messing with a couple of bits on her, and I'll explain all about that in a minute. But I will be taking Esther home with me today. So just now I started basically putting everything back together. I've got the plastic trim there that goes over the spark plug wires, and yeah, I found that a couple of the Allen key bolts that hold them down were cross-threaded. So I've used my tap and die set to clean the threads on these little Allen key bolts, but I've also been using the tap and die set to re-tap the threads in this rocker cover. Now I do want to change this rocker cover because the powder coating has started cracking, and yeah, before I got this rocker cover powder coated, I did try and paint it Olympic blue, and that cracked. I really thought the powder coating wouldn't crack, but yeah, I'm going to try a different rocker cover. I've got another one in my garage. These ST ones can be a bit of a nightmare because of the magnesium in the mix of the alloy. So yeah, hopefully the other one I've got won't be so much of a nightmare. But yeah, now that I've cleaned these threads out, I should be able to bolt that plastic bit back on. Now, a couple of you guys were saying in the comments of the video before last that maybe the wire for the coolant sensor hasn't got enough slack. Well, it actually does have loads of slack, and I've actually got it cable tied to the slave cylinder down there because it's got too much slack basically, and it'll end up hitting the exhaust manifold. Now, the slave cylinder obviously moves with the engine, so the fact that there's not loads of slack between the slave cylinder and the coolant sensor shouldn't be an issue. Maybe I'll adjust that a little bit today and just have a little bit more slack. But some of you guys were saying that I should basically cable tie the plug to the sensor, and yeah, it doesn't look like I'll be able to do it unless I was to sort of wrap one cable tie around the sensor, one cable tie around the plug, and then maybe a cable tie between the both of them. But there's not a lot of room there. But basically this plug just doesn't lock on properly. I don't want to ping it back off, but basically I'm able to ping that off without releasing the little locking thing. So that's the issue. Part of me wants to take the sensor out and then just see if I can get the plug to lock on it properly. But you know, there's a bit of friction there. It's not about to fall off. So yeah, I reckon it'll be all right if I just check it before I drive the car each time. Now, when me and my beautiful girlfriend Kat came round here in the video before last, I could see that the oil that was in spark plug number 4 was actually coming from a leaky rocker cover gasket. When I was rushing around on the day that this thing didn't run properly, I couldn't notice any oil. But then when I was around here in the dark with Kat, using the torch, then I could see, you know, the oil shining. So yeah, if I throw a new rocker cover gasket on this, that should solve that issue, and I've actually got one. But yeah, for now, I just want to give this rocker cover a hoover. I've already got my Jenny and hoover out because I don't want any of these little filings going in when I do the rocker cover gasket. So yeah, once I've hoovered that, I can then put the plastic trim back on, and then I can refit the strut brace, and then Esther will be ready to take home later. Oh no. Well, I'm an idiot. These bolts are M6 by 1, and I ended up doing the threads in the rocker cover with an M7. Well, I don't want to tap these to M8, so I'll just have to pick up some M7 bolts. All right, let me show you what I've been looking at on Maude. For as long as I can remember, this thing has shaky steering, and you know, the suspension just feels weird. Now, she does have banded steels, which might be part of the problem. I know that whenever I get these wheels balanced, they have to put loads of weight on them, so maybe they're not perfectly balanced. Her alignment isn't super accurate, to be honest, but I don't want to go and pay to get her aligned if there's, you know, any other issues. And for a while now, I've suspected that the steering rack might have play, but today I decided to jack her up and just inspect all her ball joints, all her poly bushes, and that sort of thing. Now, one thing I did notice today when the front wheels were on, that there was still play, or it seemed like there was play in these front wheel bearings. And the last time that I took the front hubs apart and put them back together, I didn't have a torque wrench. So I decided today just to basically make sure they're up to the factory torque, which is 27 foot-pounds. You do the nut up behind there, 27 foot-pounds, and then back off 90 degrees. And they were a lot looser than that, to be fair. But then, you know, I refitted the wheel, and I can still feel, you know, what feels like the wheel bearing being loose. But what I realised is it's actually movement in the front leg. You know, if I wiggle that, I can feel movement. But when my good friend Rob was around here, I had him look at this top mount, and you know, when I'm wiggling that, this wasn't moving at all. I'm not sure if I'll be able to show you if I put the camera here. I doubt this is going to work because obviously my hand's just going to be moving, but you know, I can feel that knocking, but this doesn't seem to be moving, you know, separately from the top mount. Now, around the other side, I am able to see the top bit moving. Well, it's more up and down. If I pull down on the shock, that kind of moves up and down. So I don't know if maybe this side needs the top nut done up more. I don't know, but that's something I can look at once I get Maude back on the ground. Now, Maude is running the 2.8 Capri Bilstein front legs, which have like a thread and a nut at the bottom of them, as you can see here. Now, I did tighten up the other side, but I've just remembered I didn't tighten up this side. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to do anything. I'm assuming this is the nut you undo when you sort of strip these front legs to replace the shock absorbers. It's the wrong size spanner, because I never rebuilt these front legs at all. They were fitted to Esther, and I just basically painted them up and fitted them. So, yeah, see, that nut doesn't move much either, to be honest. Yeah, it only moved a little bit. But yeah, the bit that the nut's on has got a slot in it. And normally that would be, you know, kind of like an adjustment. That's very similar to what the fuel pressure regulators have. So you'd sort of back the nut off and then adjust the thread bit and then do the nut back up. So yeah, let me know in the comments if any of you guys have got experience with these Capri Bilstein front legs. Should I be cracking that nut off and then maybe doing that threaded bit up and then doing the nut back up? Is that little arrangement to potentially take play out of the shock absorber inside the body of the front leg? I don't know. As always, I'm open to any suggestions from you guys out there that know more than I do. But that still wobbles anyway, and it still appears to go up and down. Now, when I was looking at all the ball joints and the poly bushes, everything seemed fine. The only bit of play I could find on any of the bushes was the front of the leaf springs. So let me show you. Yeah, so I think you'll be able to see that if you just watch here. So yeah, the front of the leaf springs, you know, it's got a tiny bit of play, and it's pretty much only on the driver's side. All the other bushes and stuff look fine. I recently done the anti-tramp bar bushes, which were worn, so I was kind of thinking that maybe the leaf spring bushes needed doing because, yeah, when I first put this car on the road, they were all sort of done at the same time. But yeah, everything seems fine. Now, one thing that I learned on the internet yesterday, which I wasn't aware of at all, is that the steering rack, you know, where the drumsticks meet the rack, has a bit of adjustment apparently. So I'm just wondering if maybe I can tighten things up on the rack, and then I won't need to buy a new steering rack to cure the play I think that I've got in the steering rack. So yeah, that's what I'm going to have a go at now. All right, so the Haynes manual is talking about using shims and feeler gauges and stuff like that. So I'm not going to get involved in that. It's weird, the characteristics I'm getting with the rack. It's like sometimes the steering will pull to one side, but then sometimes it won't. And as I say, I'm getting a lot of vibration. So yeah, let's just take the cable ties off the boots on the rack that's on Maude, and yeah, we'll see what we can do. It looks like this is like a locking collar, and it's been banged in. Right, that moves now. So when I look from above, I can see that that is on tighter now, because the bit of that little collar that was dented into the groove is now past the groove. So it seems I have tightened that one. But yeah, now I need to try and put another mark in that sleeve to lock it where it is. And yeah, then I'll try and do the other side. All right, so I've done the other side as well. I was able to tighten it up ever so slightly, just like when I did the other side. And yeah, this side was a lot easier for me to, you know, bash the locking thing back into the groove. On this side, let me show you how I had to do it. From the top of the engine bay, I had this chisel leaning on the rack where I needed to whack it. And that wasn't quite high enough. So then I had to balance one of these club hammers on it. So that was sitting about there, and then whack the end of the club hammer with another club hammer. And yeah, I've done it a couple of times, and there's a dink in that locking collar, so hopefully it will stop it from undoing. Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to throw a load of grease on both sides and then put the boots back on with some cable ties. And yeah, then I think I'll get Maude back on the ground. I'll try and tighten that top nut a bit because that definitely seems like it's loose. I'll try and do that one up a little bit as well. And then I'll take Maude for a quick joyride and see if anything's been improved. Now obviously what I've done today on the rack is going to affect the tracking. I'm guessing it's going to make it toe in because I've essentially shortened the length of the rack if you measured from track rod end to track rod end. But I just want to see if I can notice any difference in the vibrations and stuff coming through the steering. See, what it's doing now is it's pulling to the left. I mean, I'm stopping it at the moment. But yeah, it's pulling to the left, and then when I hit the brakes, it pulls to the right. And the brake calipers are quite new, so I don't think there's any issue with any of the brakes being seized. Maybe they need a bleed. Maybe the right one's working a bit better than the left one because there's air in the left one. Who knows? But yeah, the steering basically pulls to the left when I'm driving. But as I say, the tracking's not going to be accurate. It wasn't accurate already, and obviously I've messed with it now. All right, so it's definitely hard to say for sure if the steering feels any different. I do think it's vibrating a little bit less at high speed than it was. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to, you know, definitely say until I've had another look at the tracking, because that would have been adjusted slightly from what I did today. So yeah, try and get the tracking a bit better and then go on like a motorway cruise. Because that's when I really used to sort of notice the vibrating in the steering, because, you know, you start getting like pins and needles in your hands. But, you know, I was able to just go for quite a high speed blast on like a bypass. And, you know, it's still vibrating, but I don't think it's vibrating as much as it was. Now, I don't know whether if it has been improved, whether that was me tightening up the wheel bearings or doing the steering rack, or maybe a bit of both. But yeah, I'm not sure. It definitely seems to feel better though, but it might be psychological. Anyway, I'm going to go and swap cars now, because I'm going to be taking Esther home with me tonight. Hello, so it's been quite a few days since the last clip, and since then I've been enjoying having Esther here at home, and I was going to continue this video when I dive into doing some jobs on Esther, but it's clear from editing what you've already seen that that will make the video too long. So I'm going to crack on with the jobs on Esther in the next video, which hopefully I'll be able to get edited and uploaded within the next few days. For any of you guys that have got any ideas with regards to Maude's suspension and her steering rack, feel free to get in touch or put your opinions in the comments. It's always very useful and interesting to hear what you guys think about some of the stuff that I do with my cars. So that's it for this video. Massive thanks to everyone who's got this far. If you did think it was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe if you're new. Check out my website for merch and parts. Feel free to follow me on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram. Massive thanks to my patrons for your ongoing support. I'll leave all the links to everything in the description, along with my email address for anyone who wants to contact me. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.